welcome to Studio 12. The art festival, City of Women, has been held in Slovenia for over a decade now. Its theme this year is the Global South. It seems that art and culture is somehow immune to the drivers of modern global civilization, of consumerism, capitalism and such. I quote from the webpage City of Women: "What has nevertheless succeeded to coexist on the sidelines are certain artist practices with a critical stance, contemplating the modern mutated vision of society, which abolishes history, differences, identities, and specifics." Our today's guest is Lala Raščić, an artist performing at this year's City of Women Festival. Lala, hello. Thank you for joining us. Would you tell me at first, what do you think is the role that women play in today's society? Or what is the role they should be playing and will be playing in the future?
In the equality of sexes now, that is like very important to keep in mind, this total equality. And I think it's for me, I'm just an artist, so it's hard for me to say right now what is the role that women play and what should they be playing. I mean, it's not up to me to decide or to actually to kind of say, yeah, this is something, this is a specific role that women should play. I think that there's still many societies where women are still very much oppressed, and that they don't have the same rights still as men. Now this is something that's almost inconceivable to me, that this is still going on in the 21st century, and in the future, these injustices should be eradicated.
And what is this message, the main message in your performance that you wish to convey to your audience? How would you like to enrich their way of thinking?
The performance is a multimedia performance. It's a piece that consists of a performance, an installation, and video and sound, and it is based on two stories. One is the main story, which is about Henry Boggs Brown, who was a slave in the North American South, and he shipped himself to freedom. So it's about a black man who is an African American man who is a big part of North American history, and is tied with these injustices that was slavery. Now that is, let's say, an inspiration. That story is an inspiration to my piece, and then I develop it in a totally different way. It remains narrative, it remains a story, and that is something that I wish to convey to my audience. I want to tell them a story. I don't know how it's going to enrich their life and their way of thinking, but it's definitely going to be a visual experience, if I can say so.
What made you use this artistic expression, this form of artistic expression?
Now that comes from my previous artistic experience and my previous artistic practice. Now, in the performance, I'm in a box and I read poetry written by Bosnian poets. Now, why I chose to collaborate with poets for this piece is because, in contemporary poetry and in poetry in general, the way of delivering a poem is vocal, is reading it out loud, whereas in a novel is a more silent, personal thing that you experience with yourself, and but a poem you read, and that's because in my previous performance, in my previous work, I read out scripts for dramas and for audio dramas. But here I wanted to use this medium of poetry because it's very unrepresented, and I don't really have a lot of contacts with contemporary poetry. I wanted to get inside that world a little bit, and since my work does deal with standing up in front of an audience and reading something, it was totally organic for me to go and work with poets and poetry and kind of make my performance, my verbal performance by reading poetry. And of course, there's always this very important presence of media, of video and sound in my works. And here it is present in few screens on which the audience will be able to see me reading these 5 poems on these.
So it's more a personal need than a social need, would you say that? It's more out of a personal wanting.
Yeah, definitely. It could say that it's personal, but also I always work with I kind of always take some subjects which are social, which have to do with, which are critical of the surrounding in which we live in the environment that surrounds me and you, and I work with those topics. But very often I turn this, rather than being like this previous question, rather than it being a very direct kind of slogan-like statement, it's more like, let's say, a satire. It's wrapped in a few layers of humor or of aesthetics. And I think I use that kind of way to get my message across.
What is your audience like to get this message, to understand this message? What would you say, what kind of person goes to see this performance?
People who are interested in art usually just come to see these kind of events. I mean, very little people that are not engaged in art, theater, or photography, or any of these.
Not your everyday person.
Exactly. I mean, they don't frequent art shows anyway.
And do you think these people are somehow implemented in social events, in ways of thinking in the outer society? Or is it just artists within the small group of...
Contemporary art has a big tendency to be elitist and not to talk to itself only, but I mean, experience has shown that your average person, is, people are not stupid. People, the thing is they don't frequent art shows, openings, and events that much, but, the message is definitely intended for them, and they are definitely have this same capacity to accept, art as in art crowd, and that's great. And there's never a better compliment than somebody who actually doesn't know much about contemporary art comes up to you and congratulates you and tells you sincerely what they think and what they experienced in seeing your work, and especially if they liked it and if they really saw something totally different in it. Those are very great moments, very enriching moments.
And do you think your performances can change society or can change people's mind? Do they have an impact?
I don't think, right now that art can really change society. It can make few people think different, and if it can do that and open their eyes to some issues, and if art can, impact 5 people out of 5 million, that's already a lot. But I don't know, I'm just today I'm of the opinion that art cannot change society, and it's very not important.
Lala, thank you very much for joining us in the studio today, and I wish you best of luck with your work.
Thank you very much, I enjoyed being here.
Global South, in all its metaphorical meaning, is a cruel reality of the world we live in. does perhaps art have the answers to these problems? I leave you with this thought. Thank you for watching and see you next time.